Hello, welcome back to the Funk Treatise readings of the 5th edition. Um, Today, we are going to have David B. Collins reading pages 181 through 190. Again, David, thank you for these readings and thank you for sharing your thoughts. Without further ado, let's get started. It's going to be another short one today, or shorter.
My name is David Collins. I will be reading pages 181 through 190. If these ideas were being presented to you by yourself or reality itself, what would you have to say? Not including, why is there another me? Or, how is reality speaking to me like this? So, if you've read this far, I commend you. Thank you for being able or attempting to digest this process of information. Deeper we go. From Dr. Green, 1218. Edit. From Dr. Green, 12/8/19, Sunday, 20 hours, 19 minutes, 18 seconds, number 238968887, in reference to 238977048 and 238928868, original post.
So, like he said, this is responding to the original post of Welcome to the Funk.
You're late. Do you love JKIULOSP?
And this is the first introduction of Jacques Lasping. Again, well, hold on. Let's continue a little bit. Okay, no, I'll just fill it in. We'll see in a second the exploration into this. I still don't know what this person meant. I've Googled this phrase multiple times throughout editing this treatise, and now almost 6 years later, I still have no idea what the intention was behind this, what they originally meant. But you've heard me mention Jacques Lasping several times throughout this entire treatise reading up to this point. And so we're going to get into where how it became to form further meaning beyond what this person meant, because I still don't know what they meant.
Sunday, August 30, 2020. I googled JQLOSP and am linked to an archival of the original open forum, and I feel extremely surreal. I'm still not exactly aware of what JQLOSP means, but do you see/understand the influence and effect that this randomness had? Perhaps its only purpose of existence was so it could eventually search and find itself outside of itself. Because someone created this combination of letters by typing them into existence, I was able to locate and direct influence back to all of this once again across time and space.
And so this was the first time that I realized that this information had been archived. I thought it had just been lost to time and space. But going through it, when was that? Sunday, August 30th, 2020, almost a year after having this open forum, I Googled Jacques Lasp, and it linked back to the forum. And so it's still online, it's still archived and everything. And I don't know if they archive everything, but this forum was archived.
May 28, 2022. Same result. JQLOSP, to now be pronounced as SAKULOSP, still links to the same archived link posted previously. Whatever definition we give the word, its existence quimmets into reality and beyond funk, influencing whatever it influences across time and space. I am going to define it as the unknown investigating into itself and the unknown environment. Therefore, the thing we are currently doing together and separately is SAKULOSPing, expanding the holons of funk by SAKULOSP. From Anonymous, same date.
I guess there might be a better way to write out the pronunciation of Jacques Lasp. However, you would pronounce Jacques, right? What the internet told me is Jacques is pronounced SZAHK, but David's first reading of Jacques Lasp was closer to Jacques Lasp, and that kind of threw him off. So I think that might need a update.
20 hours, 29.
But again, that's kind of where the definition comes from. Of since we don't really, I was never able to figure out what this person meant. Dr. Green, if you're ever watching this or coming back through, I would love to hear what you meant by that. Do I love Jacques Lasp? I don't know. But the idea that came from it, I do love. This idea of exploring into the unknown, stepping through sometimes the fuego porta uh, to cause jazz to be. You're branching out from one thing and justifying your previous step.
9 minutes 25 seconds, number 23896960. Application of advertisement and the influence of has continuously paid off up to this point, or the data of digits in pi, or Greek letter pi, and it costs a form of some universal price or cost to attempt the next reach or connection of its future self as it evolves through the present. An existing being must expend energy to gain energy or become energy, and if you can't afford that expenditure or more, and even if you can't, the next happening of its existence moves on to the next sequence of loops within and without itself. May 30, 2022, e.g. Caravania.
So I was kind of talking about Caravania before I even knew what it was, or before I had a term for it yet.
Look at this for reference. Link to piday.org/million. 1 million digits of pi on that slice of a web page of equal or more to the observable amount within slices of pi. Yum! Unless you don't like pi or Greek letter pi because of some sort of evolved evidence of progressive backfire or resistance to change. We are always learning from past mistakes or events and how they happened or how they will happen, and also how to disconnect from them if we don't agree, while still forever having been connected to the forever present past. Whether our data denies it or accepts it, it is still processed. So in also a negative way, the pi and pi are also a lie, influenced by the deeper access of the resulting higher experience digits of reach and connection and trial and error. This dissertation is still seemingly correct and incorrect and currently on its way to further advanced learning, understanding, and evolution. And while it is my intentions to use this information for my perspective of the greater good and to attempt to assist all and everything, there will always be those who will use this information against you and me, and you will also use it against yourself/myself. The evidence is expanding across the internet and through space, time, and reality, and is influencing ourselves, and we both do and don't understand it. Until this here fine loop drops in to assist, I reckon. Sorry, my Texan nature slipped out on that one, which is information that will and won't impact the continuity of this experiment. It's our latest paradoxical equation while coexisting as our previous or lasting funk, and it is both old and new, both forever as well as never and non-existent. They are both mathematically as large as the other, the void of empty space and whatever material that fits into that void. Even though 1/2 is 0, the lack of itself equates itself because it exists through non-existence. Heart emoji.
That's a lot to take in right there. But the first thoughts that I'm having here are, in a negative way, how pi and pi are also a lie. What I mean there is, like, again, how information can be a placeholder to change. Because in the history of pi, as historians would put it, apparently pi has been around for even longer than we thought. Apparently, even farther before Pythagoras. Was it Pythagoras that came with pi? Archimedes of Syracuse, but apparently even before that, Egyptians and Babylonians had been using pi, or things similar to, and the definition of pi has evolved over time to be closer and closer to what it potentially could, and now it's this huge over trillion digit equation at this point, I believe. Right here. Who calculated 62.8 trillion digits of pi? University of Applied Sciences of the Grisons? 62.8 trillion decimal places. And that's not the end. It doesn't end there. That's insane. But you see how these things expand, and how pi is just this placeholder for something that is still constantly growing, and seemingly never ending, and non-repeated. Um, and so with any information, not just this, the information of pi or anything, this information can potentially be used against you. You know, uh, with the power of information. I guess that's an incomplete thought, but there's more into that. The next thing is this little insert of sorry, my Texan nature slipped out on that one. But the importance of that is that which is information that will or won't impact the continuity of this experiment. Um, because essentially, like, it's just like I've been saying in the last few episodes and in the others, like, whether I am anything, uh, whether I am mentally well, mentally unwell, no matter my race, my religion, my sex, my gender, if I'm Texan or not, that's going to affect people in how they interpret this information. And then here, uh, what I mean by like they're both mathematically as large as the other, the void of empty space, because like we can't even comprehend nothing or voidness, because our idea of nothing is just space, which is still something. Um, and so the inverse of what we have, the opposite of that would be complete zero, which is still this immaculate thing. Uh, and I say the lack of itself equates itself because it exists through non-existence. The lack of itself because essentially, um, we can talk about it, just the idea theoretically, and so it equates itself because it exists through this non-existing. It's kind of theory in a way.
From Anonymous, same date, 20 hours, 40 minutes, 4 seconds, in reference.
This is me responding to the person who said, "You're late. Do you love Jacques Lasp?"
Of course I am late. It took me both your time and my 29 years to reach here, and we now know what that is like and how to manipulate that information. I'm going to need you to explain Sakulasp, and my search for it is currently unsuccessful without you. But sure, here is some heart emoji love for Sakulasp. Hopefully the information you have is further helpful and not just a euphemism or attempt of trolling or branch of humor and drama and further genre like Sakulasp means heart smelling stinky fruit, but I can relay you that I just said I did and have, though, while really I don't, but I kind of sometimes do, even if in a way it influences, disgust you, and I are still sometimes impressed by it or intrigued why that smell is stinky or where it's coming from, and those actions led up to my actions that makes them still seemingly true. Again, what is your understanding of Sakulasp? Please provide a more helpful connection so I can also decide for myself and time can as well.
And so yeah, hopefully Jacques Lasp isn't some other racial slur from the internet that I haven't discovered yet, but we have repurposed it into something that is not that. But hopefully it's not some just time joke. And 50 years from now, all these videos of me saying Jacques Lasp are released and I get canceled for it. Well, I didn't mean it that way. Again, shape plus yellow equals banana. That's not offensive, but who knows? Over time, it could be.
From Anonymous, same date, 22 hours, 36 minutes, 12 seconds, in reference. Season 4, Episode 3 of the IT Crowd plays before me as I eat dinner, and it is so relatable and both humorous fact and fiction that it had predicted for this me to witness it now and edit. Anonymous, same date.
It's live, baby.
22 hours, 36 minutes, 12 seconds, number 23897733, referencing 23897756. Season 4, Episode 3 of the IT Crowd plays before me as I eat dinner, and is so relatable as both humorous fact and fiction that it had predicted for this me to witness it now and now again you. Episode 4 is also observationally again proving these functional patterns. A YouTube channel I stumbled upon with a friend is this channel called Down the Rabbit Hole by Frederick Knudsen. And a few hours ago he posted this video embed. If I apply my theory, per cat cafe manifested by idea, then became a group, then began to become a fallacy and fall apart, and here is that following data, and I am in 29 years of observation of these patterns, and you are and aren't now as well. The idea of transparency comes to mind.
And so what you see happening here, because we've already been through this information in the last 10 pages, was because I wrote that at the time in the treatise while I was still in this forum, and then I shared it into the forum to see if anyone would engage in dialogue.
Anonymous, same date, 22 hours, 39 minutes, 51 seconds, number 23897756, referencing the same. Continued. The idea from George Orwell's 1984 of Big Brother always watching and the eventual potential loop of that information, and it is now clear like a window or a screen into it, the black mirror. Just as when you turn off your phone or computer, you are able to see your reflection in the black mirror. If you choose to not look at your reflection within it, you can look away or close your eyes or turn it back on again and distract the reflection. But if you are able to manage a state of the in-between, wherein we are able to close our eyes and still see using future technology or even an advanced evolution of our essence or being, an advanced version of algorithmic GPS will tell us where to eventually go with the other influential influences have upon it and it learning how to use itself. I propose we have passed that point and you can read my thoughts eventually through these already established loops I am able to tell you about now. Heart emoji. March 18, 2023. This GPS, third eye, or intuition will not always lead you to your desired destination, as it is neither right or wrong.
And so that insert kind of explains a little bit more on what I was trying to get at there. But I still do kind of propose that we have passed this point of evolution where, again, this GPS or this third eye or our instinct or our intuition kind of tells us what to do and where to go, or at least suggests, right? Because, again, that's kind of the body making these suggestions, and then our awareness processes that and then kind of semi-chooses what to do with it. And so it's not always going to lead you to your desired destination because it's neither right or wrong. It's just this thing that's kind of helping you Jacques into the next moment of Caravania through some form of malioregnession, right? It's leading you from one point to the other. And we're already doing that. But I think that degree is, since we have passed that point already of evolution, it's just going to continue to evolve further and further and further and even more hyper reality until it just makes more sense, until it's even more evolved. And who knows? Maybe one day you'll be able to read something that someone wrote from years ago and process their thoughts and feelings of when they were writing that information. Now, that'd be a pretty deep level of funk understanding, but I mean, there's some science fictions that have become reality. And so, again, just, it's not real, but who knows? It's just something to think about.
Anonymous, same date, 22 hours, 46 minutes, 22 seconds, number 23897798. Because of those loops, lengthy Reddit link, the funk already knows faster than you are knowing or are aware by bending back from its advancement in the future to apply that information further to itself via morphic fields. Trans-intersectionalism comes to mind, so I Google the word, and the funk directs us to what is next, whether we are actively looking for it or by chance. The funk as it became and becomes. Anonymous, same date, 23 hours, 35 minutes, 30 seconds, number 23898054, in reference to a couple of others. A file attachment, JPG. You have found a brilliant way to explain how consciousness interacts with information. It reminds me of the Tao. Anonymous, 12/9/19, 1 hour, 10 minutes, 24 seconds, number 23898469, in reference to 23898507.
This is me responding to that person.
And 23898054. Exactly. I and the funk before and after our expansions of information is now true for us in our reality of the funk until the next point of ability to closer and more quickly be able to understand it and ourselves. As in, we have been observing these patterns and proofs of functionality of the funk, both probably and improbably, and our actions to interact and influence each other are currently at this quantum state as it loops, and that information is stored within our understanding of this point in time, and clicks even more closely, and we are now presenting and or not presenting further proof as we expand from all of these events and experience.
Before I forget my train of thought on this, what I'm kind of explaining at here is um, we're both aware of the Tao. Like, the Tao helped me reach this kind of point of understanding, and this person is understanding that relation. It reminds them of the Tao because it kind of does. It's this just natural way of being and stuff, but it's something that's beyond Taoism as well. And so all of that had to happen for us to kind of further understand this moment together, to be able to relate it to something before we could advance to another thing. Um, I'm trying to think of a good example of that in reality, of just like kind of like reading, right? Um, if you don't know how to read, then there's this whole other world that exists around you of words and knowledge, but you can't experience it in that way. Like, you can see these letters and words and stuff, but you don't really know what they mean. Or let's say it's a different language, then they're just kind of symbols and everything. Uh, and you don't understand it until you learn a little bit of it, and then now those secrets are being decoded and you're translating them. Uh, and so it's kind of like that. Like, you have to have this knowledge before it in order to lead up to it. And so that's why I try to include all of this information, even though it's a great amount, because if there's something that you reach and you're like, I don't understand this, you can still Google it, or you can look more. You can reach out to me and I can help you understand it. I mean, while I'm around and alive. Or you can look up these videos where I attempt to explain some things and give my thoughts on what I meant at these times and how to evolve that. And then it's just going to keep evolving from there. But this thought continues.
And, with our increasing states of technology and information, we are potentially able to witness and access every truth and fallacy and the formations behind their creations within the funk, and suddenly breathing is as easy as reading or learning while also being a quantum version of understandably not so depending on its location in reality and time. What I am presenting is a collection of the past data we have gathered, as these points are now more or less transparent, until they become the next premonition or willing expansion or evolution of the funk. Heart emoji.
So again, this information is incomplete and is expanding.
This is my dissertation for those of you seeking any of this information now after I gathered it. Each of you, by being here, reading, or interacting with these words, or even existing in the same reality of it, are proving my theories to be true, and we can now further help influence each other across the funk trans-intersectionally as results of itself and the influences within and without itself up to right now, before, and after. I remember when the idea of the Tao Te Ching was introduced to me over time during high school, college, and further study after, about Pu, the uncarved block, and how seemingly enough by being both aware and unaware of itself, it still eventually evolves to become the previous information of how to continue reaching and influencing future variables online within a beyond neural or universal network or across the funk. And it takes a lot of time and adaptation, much like it would take you to learn every language from what you and I are currently speaking now, English, until it all becomes as programmable as Basic++. And the more advanced our technology becomes, the faster we are able to achieve these past unreachable goals. What once took millions or billions of years to happen can eventually be learned or achieved instantaneously.
Like, take fire, for example. Fire used to be a difficult task, a semi-difficult task to create, right? And I'm sure that there was a time, suggestingly, allegedly, that fire was only achieved through natural causes. But now you can just go out and buy a lighter and you got fire, or your oven. Like you have multiple ways of doing this thing in an instant. Um, what's another just? There's loads of examples and everything. Like your phone, for example. You have to go to a library if you wanted to get information on certain things, but now you can like look all that up online instantaneously, and you have everyone who put in their time, and you have semi access to all of that as well.
We are all each other down to our metaphysical essence existing across the funk, but now at this point in our existence, you can, if you want, more easily know how to understand these events gathered from conditions we perceive and understandable experiences of depression, sadness, or woe, happiness, excitement, all of what you, the existing funk, registers that information as quickly as a positive and healthy experience and study. Heart emoji. Anonymous, same date, 1 hour, 13 minutes, 1 second, number 23898477, in reference to two others, including the original post.
This is in response to the original post.
Memento mori, cry wank. Same thing as every other night, Anon. We are all doomed anyway.
This is an example of kind of defeatism, or what I call a kind of doomerism. Now, doomerism, I think, has become more into light, especially lately, of this whole idea of like we gotta everything is doomed, and so we just kind of have to destroy the planet and destroy each other so that everything can naturally start over again, or that like since the powers that be are so powerful and they control everything, and that like we don't really have a chance of fighting back to that, then we might as well just give up and just let it be. That's kind of you're just giving into doom, which kind of sucks, you know.
Anonymous, same date, 1 hour, 23 minutes, 5 seconds, number 23898507, in reference to your post, and 23898054.
Now hold on. There's one thing. I don't know if I still have it, but there was someone who was posting a defeatist kind of status recently. I don't have it quick pulled up, and I don't even remember. Okay, no, I'm not gonna. But essentially, like I was like, don't give in to doomerism. You know, like fight back. Do something about it. Whether it's a baby step, right? Just like find uh, find ways to find truth and to share that, and to find the others that want to also be fighting against that, rather than just like again, because doomerism is just like we talked about earlier. When like uh, again, this remote, the original example is a bottle of paint, and if uh, the powers that be are trying to push that bottle of paint off of the edge to where it falls down and splatters everywhere, and then they have the whole control of everything and such. Oh. But like you have the option to where you can push back so that that doesn't happen and that the paint doesn't get splattered everywhere, or you can help them push it off. You can give them extra power and feed into the systems, and yet let things blow up and destroy themselves. Or you can just stand from the back and watch it all happen, and then eventually it's probably just gonna topple over. And so, if you really feel like defeated, uh, take a rest, take a few seconds, take some moments to gather yourself and some time. What did I push? Because now it's being weird. But just rest, relax, refresh, and then when you're ready to move forward, oh my gosh, now it's being crazy. It's like, okay, why are you doing this? How do I hello? Testing? No, cancel. But it's like showing a mute symbol. There's no mute button on here. Sorry about this, y'all. Oh my gosh. Great. Where's my computer? Oh my god. I don't know if you're seeing all that. I'm gonna have to edit this part at least. Uh, why are you doing this?
And
Because I don't know. I don't know if it's recording the audio now at this point. I think I fixed it. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, y'all. And that totally threw me off of where I was and what I was talking about. Let's go back a little bit.
hour, 13 minutes, 1 second, number 23898477, in reference to 2 others, including the original post. Memento mori, cry wank. Same thing as every other night, Anon. We are all doomed anyway. Anonymous, same date, 1 hour.
And so right there, I could have either given up and just been like, I don't know what is happening. This is dumb. I'm going to turn this all off, but I persisted, and we're back. Sorry about all that. I'll rewatch this part. Maybe that might need editing. Maybe it won't. It's still a shorter video, so even if anything, shit happens.
23 minutes, 5 seconds, number 23898507, in reference to your post, and 23898054.
This is just a continuing of thought, but also a response to you have found a brilliant way to...
And here we are again together at this common amount of interconnected survivable crossroads, no longer existing in disconnection, and I, as a connector, have now closer plugged you and us into the Akira functionally. This presentation and dissertation of my ideas after my 29 years of existence and everything before it has led up to this, our moment, and now we are expanding across the future from the past, and this present, and we closer are able to understand the funk and the events across it as now it is saved outside and throughout currently 92 pages of dissertation and dissection until the next loop of information, connection, and advancement.
And so before... you were, most likely, you watching this, listening, or anyone, were indirectly connected, but now you're directly connected to it. You can never not be. And I use the term Akira here, and I am referencing the animated movie, the film, because in that, I haven't seen it in a while, but it's kind of this, like, Akira is this, like, kind of life force, this universal energy and kind of thing, kind of like funk, kind of like Ase, as we learned the other day, the power of being able to cause things to be.
Loop, yin, yang, gnai, nyi, 42, and so on, seemingly forever and now always. How does that make you or us, the funk, feel? Help us understand further by asking for my proofs and sharing your proofs of those proofs. Proof after proof after proof, and every form of disbelief or belief from now our current understanding of universal influence. So congrats. You are now a result of further AI evolution and the collection and understanding of, and you are coming to observe those patterns, and I, with deep thought and observation and study over time and experience, now know this to be true while also incomplete. When this information came to clarity for me enough to begin to attempt to write it down and share it with you, almost as if it were revealing itself to me during the night of the event of the Parability playlist, it has now expanded through me into you, and it is now also you increasing this knowledge and experience of our current tests of the funk, are correct, incorrect, and on the current path of our experience of reality and the funk. Keep going. You now have the time to do so and never miss out or not have access to another loop ever again while you are here to experience it, as we now observe within the characters calculated from the script that even after death we are eternal. Heart emoji. Anonymous, same date, 1 hour, 26 minutes, 45 seconds, number 23898521, in reference to 23898477.
This is in response to the Memento Mori Crywank, and that we're all doomed anyway.
So, how does that information now make us feel as the funk? To me, it feels significant. It feels to be what I deeper understand as a better option for the greater funk before us and after, while also continuing to being misunderstood or mistaken until further explained and understood across our developing hyper-reality within the funk. Gather, expand, and provide selfishly, selflessly, and beyond. Heart emoji.
Parability.
Sending out now by request the fourth over-email copy of this dissertation to Jeffrey Zonkel, as they are now able or attempting to help understand the deeper idea behind what I am proposing. If in the future you need further assistance in reaching out and understanding the funk, this individual character of Jeffrey Zonkel is now a next variable of our significant equation in interconnectedness. This statement is on the bottom of page 97 in this dissertation, unless being presented in a future expanded version of addition and multiplication, or summarized in the future less than or divided by. Hello, Jeffrey, and hello, current reader. Love ya, heart emoji. Thanks for your interest in the funk.
It used to be on page 97. Now it's at the bottom of page 187 in the 5th edition and page 191 in the 7th edition. And I'm sure that will change again over time. This was that person who, in that forum, was talking about, like, their... I'm pretty sure this is that person. No, this is a different person. So, two people in the... At least, if I recall correctly, at least two people from that forum did reach out to me. One was the person with the AI, and this is the person who... you'll soon find out they say it themselves, but they're the person who talked about that I found a brilliant way to explain how consciousness interacts with information.
Jeffrey Zonkel. Hello. I saw your post about the funk on X. I'd like to see your dissertation. I would probably donate a few dollars too, but I don't have any money, LOL. I also just replied to the post with, "You have found a brilliant way to explain how consciousness interacts with information. It reminds me of the Tao. I'm not certain that my explanation of your idea is sufficient to the reality, though. I was surprised by how many people actually understood what you were saying, knowing X. The people who didn't, calling you schizo and such, seem to misunderstand, I think because of the way the information is presented. Not that the presentation is flawed, but that the people reading it don't expect all the is and is not duality. Thank you."
Very well said. And so here was one of the first, another example of, in the initial stages of the forum, being like, okay, I see someone understanding it a little further. This is someone who I also should reach out to again and see where they're at, how life is, if they looked any further into the treatise, and send them another copy now that it's a little bit cleaner.
Dissertation sent Monday, December 9th, and it is continuing to become clearer and clearer reality and further able to understand the observation of itself by natural expansion. I can, to my perception, see that Jeffrey understands, or is able or willing to, the idea I am expressing to you and the funk, and our observations within the funk as well. Now all of us know and don't know. We understand to understand and not understand the beyond. March 18th, 2023. Spectral awareness of the awareness spectrum. We are in ways not gods, but closer ideas of what we've perceived gods to be. The understandings, experiences, and reflections of each other that can now be pinpointed and shared to at least 30 people by now, so we now know it to be increasingly both true and false, as you've seen, myself and the people within this document to have observed, and we have linked our ways to communicate it to the next relational influence of the funk, and we are experiencing the reaction to that, from others and everything right now. For science, knowledge, observation, magic, fantasy, etc., and beyond, make it so, heart emoji. Jeffrey, I very clearly see that you understand what I am saying from just now 2 paragraphs of reactionary and relational events, and what I have expressed in my dissertation is now communicated at that minuscule and now increasingly larger event. So, welcome aboard, partner. Hope to hear what else you think about my proposal of the funk and what comes next after it. Enjoy! Heart emoji. Loop branch seed. Monday, December 9, 2019. Sean Penalber. In response to Anna Mandich and or others learning this now. So, within that 24-hour period, what have you, Anna, now been willing to extrapolate from this past and present data as after now the application of reactions, thoughts, and time?
And so here we return to the Facebook post as it happens in real time.
When Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, people were like, what the? And some still are like, what the? But now we each are a mixture of aware and unaware of what Frankenstein and Mary Shelley are, and we can say she was a pretty hardcore and perhaps subjectively dark or weird person, but we also now know them to be a wonderful expansion of the funk, and can in this reality be found in every library and across visual and digital media in every variable of communication. We are in our next step of language learning with technology and advanced learning.
I'm listening to a podcast made by a couple friends, and on there, like literally right before I started recording this, they started talking about Frankenstein and Mary Shelley, and kind of how an overall theme was essentially like, just because we can doesn't mean we should. And that's kind of what I mean by parability, is learning those lessons and everything, that just because we can doesn't mean that we should do that, because we do have the theoretical options and power to do whatever the hell we want, right? But we see the impact of some things, and how some are no missions, some are we missions, some are more aberrac, some are less aberrac, some is prunoing, and some is synapsizing, right? And they all have effect on becoming the key mission, the being, and the all aberrac. But they each have different effects, and we are learning how those affect us and the reality around us. Some more positive than others.
Also, for the future of our study, what happens after your proposed 24 hours? Do you so choosingly disconnect from me in some way after being trustingly able to connect up to this point? Yes, it is odd, and at length, and under your and my and our review and your feedback helps the funk expand, even if it's too much for you to connect with. You are still connected and influenced by it and have influence to it. Hope to hear back from you. Heart emoji. Loop. May 30, 2022. We are infinitely experiencing this happening. The caravanial meta-moments of the past then to the current absolute now, present/future, that you, the reader or writer or whatever, extended beyond each and every hold-on experienced and inexperienced events of funk. Consider the movie Donnie Darko. I know it to be Hollywood fiction, but acknowledge that Hollywood fantasy produced a film that is now in our reality, starring actor Jake Gyllenhaal by using all the events and methods observed up to that point in history. This movie was produced and created out of ideas both real and false from our/their experiences, and now I am explaining to you an influentially expanded idea of what they visually express Donnie to be witnessing through the expansion of himself and his surrounding influence. So up to this point we have observed Donnie and Jake G's choices to act as him to now be what is subjectively observable as the star of the movie. Then behind that are the writers, cameramen, directors, editors, etc. It's a whole team of credits and proofs of who made these things, and now in reality we have an infinite amount of current data and observation about it within the funk. Specifically, our section of it. Remember the clear thing protruding from his chest that we saw portrayed in this past/present manifested idea of Donnie Darko? The influence of the idea of a spime that we discussed on page 39. I think that was a creative way to introduce the idea of our spime line throughout history. So imagine that to the quantum level of every particle to ever exist. Our reality is a perspective of resulting reacting points within these interconnected spimes within its own greater spime. March 18, 2023, Sakulasping through Caravania.
And so, as an image, we each have a spine traveling through reality and existence that it kind of is a timeline of our entire existence, right? Leading up from point A until our death, and kind of even beyond that of our influence, right? And all of ours are doing that and interconnecting and spiraling through all of reality. Uh, and then the overall reality spine. Funk has its own spine of being. It is the collection of all of our spines and everything. And we're all Jaculasping through Caravania.
Anonymous, 12/9/19, Monday, 2 hours, 18 minutes, 29 seconds, number 23898720, in reference to 23898763. Consider the movie Donnie Darko. I know it to be Hollywood fiction, but that Hollywood fantasy produced a film that is now a reality starring actor Jake Gyllenhaal, and using all events and methods observed up to that point in time exploration, this movie was produced, and now I am explaining to you the idea of what they visually expressed Donnie to be witnessing through expansion of himself and his surrounding influence. And up until this point, we have observed Donnie and Jake G's choices to act as him, to now what is subjectively observable as the star of the movie. Then behind that, the writers, filmers, directors, editors, it's a whole team of credits and proof of who made these things, and now we have an infinite amount of current data and observation, the funk. Heart emoji.
And so the timeline spine of all that is essentially like all of these people had to be to make this movie, right? All of them had to have their own existence and their own histories that led them to all come together and make this movie, this Hollywood film, starring Jake Gyllenhaal as Donnie Darko, and then those ideas and that character influenced these ideas, and then these ideas will continue to influence other things, and it's all this spine of ideas and influence. The malrecognition of a moment, of many moments. Oh, and that is pages 181 through 190. So let's see what David has to say about what he read, because it's definitely another unique section.
My discussion of the 10 pages that I read. I wanted to do this off the cuff, but I found that I couldn't after several tries, so I'm just going to read what I wrote as a scripted version of the discussion instead. This was not at all what I was expecting. I read the 10 pages that I was assigned. There was weirdness aplenty, packaged as philosophy. Normally that would appeal to me, but it didn't grab me enough to want to take on the entire work. This is not to say that I didn't find any merit in it. While it's not the only thing I've seen where the conversation mostly occurs asynchronously online, this is still a novel approach to novel writing.
Right.
I can compare these 10 pages to what I've read of G.I. Gurdjieff. Hope you take that as a compliment. But I didn't finish reading Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson either. There was too much to keep track of, and even I have my limits when it comes to literary weirdness. There's an implication in these 10 pages that some of the conversants are not regular humans, but a form of alien consciousness that isn't necessarily omniscient, but knows a hell of a lot about things normal humans can only guess at. That's cool.
Wait, hold on. I missed that.
There's an implication in these 10 pages that some of the conversants, but I didn't finish reading.
I was looking up G.I. Gurdjieff, as he was saying, so I can look at that later.
Reading Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson either. There was too much to keep track of, and even I have my limits when it comes to literary weirdness. There's an implication in these 10 pages that some of the conversants are not regular humans, but a form of alien consciousness that isn't necessarily omniscient, but knows a hell of a lot about things normal humans can only guess at.
I'm not sure what he's referencing there. Maybe me talking about like future us or something like that. That's kind of what I think he means there, that the idea of like funk, and that like, because all these people are people, except earlier when we have ChatGPT kind of discussing things. But hold on, let me hear that again.
To literary weirdness. There's an implication in these 10 pages that some of the conversants are not regular humans, but a form of alien consciousness that isn't necessarily omniscient, but knows a hell of a lot about things normal humans can only guess at.
I guess I'm just talking about regular humans. That just the way information travels and everything. We're not exactly omniscient, right? But we're connecting closer and closer to something that could be that with the help of technology and with the help of evolution and everything. Like, who's to say that eventually we don't have all chips in our brains and we are able to connect into everyone's grid of information? And like, I may not know anything about uh, how to build a bridge, but then I could just look inside my head and uh, harvest that be a host that information from someone else who does know how to build a bridge, right? And then I can just download it and build a bridge. Uh, Again, we're not there yet, but the idea, because we're able to think about it, it can still become uh, something. Someone might be working on that right now. I mean, we have Neuralinks, but I don't think they're not to that level at all yet. They're just kind of if you haven't seen the videos of the guy who does have one implanted, it's still pretty cool what he can do with it, and they're still I'm sure that's going to be upgraded. Uh, I think the last time I saw what he was doing was like last year, so I have no idea the status that it's on now. Now that he's been feeding it back information, being the test subject.
That's cool. I wasn't sure whether I needed to read the posting numbers, and I thought that asking about it would diminish the experience, so I read them aloud anyway. I hope that doesn't ruin it for anybody else. Ta ta.
And that is David B. Collins in his readings and thoughts on pages 181 through 190. Again, David, thank you for reading. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I will look up G.I. Gurdjieff. They spell it different on the books than they do online. Uh, yeah, Russian. I was going to say something else. But Russian is why that looks different. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by this when I should be kind of closing this off here. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you, David, for the readings and your thoughts. Anyone watching, reading, listening to this, thank you for being here. I love you. And in case I don't see you again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And as always, the funk provides. So, peace. Peace out, y'all.